Gamers, and welcome to a new adventure. I recently returned from the Race to World versus Germany, where I was for about 2 weeks or so. And while I was there, I was harassed and harangued to play this game because it was obscene, apparently, that I hadn't played it. Now, I have played it, I kind of agree, and our journey is not over yet. Welcome to Undertale. This game, before I even get anywhere, I just want to tell you, is S tier and is currently, at least as of time recording, 69 pence. I am 20 hours into this game. 69 pence. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. And I am far from done. So, I mean, take anything you want from away from this, but well worth it, because I'm about to get into spoilers, because that's what this channel's about. I'm revealing what's happening. Go and play it if you haven't, and then come back, and then you will probably be very angry at me. Okay. So, first playthrough as always. Full blind. I know nothing about it. All I got told while I was there is go and do it. I had at some point in my life seen a speed run of this game, but given how much dialogue is influencing the game, it doesn't really mean anything. I had seen something somewhere at like GDQ or whatever. So essentially I don't know anything. Interesting, very basic. This is one of those games, and I always compare it to like Binding of Isaac, where it's a very simple yet intriguing concept that then gets taken off into the extremes. And the simple concept here is once humans and monsters lived together, humans are far more powerful than monsters, and eventually they drove the monsters underground. They're sealed away in this underground world. There's a magical barrier that like prevents them from getting out. Things can go in, they can't get out unless you have this like ultimately powerful soul, which requires like capturing human souls. So the monsters are trapped underground, and you play this little boy. Which I named Gally in tribute to our forgotten Chrome King Gallywix of the WoW Race to World First, who was a very big disappointment. And off we went on our journey. Interesting start. Starts off with this like very nice, friendly flower, and then one of the things I love about this is everything is kind of a misdirect. Like, all the way through the game. There are misdirects left and right. And the misdirect here is your first contact with this nice, pleasant, like, sunflower thing, is it immediately turns evil. And it tells you, you do or die down here, right? Kill or be killed. Followed by the introduction of this goat lady. I did not like this goat lady, because this goat lady was, as far as I could tell... trying to ensnare and kidnap a child by forcing the child, which is you, to live in her house and not proceed onwards, and has definitely got a ton of secrets and suspicious things going on. This is a misdirect because you obviously get this impression from the flowers, like not everything's as it seems, something seems friendly and then it's evil, and then you're immediately presented with this friendly but suspicious character. Ergo... I didn't like her at all. I thought she was sus. She actually made me a cinnamon butterscotch pie and left it on the floor pie, while I was asleep. And I tried everything to find out what was in her basement, and she constantly prevents you from doing those things. Now, I didn't eat it. I was like convinced it was poisoned. And as I finally convinced her to show me what was in the basement, which was actually the gateway to the underground ruins where all the monsters live, I butchered her, and I don't regret it. I'm pointing that out because of the reaction of people. I don't regret it. I definitely felt like she was trying to ensnare me in some horrible way. And then the game actually starts, kind of. Kind of. We're going to go through the whole first playthrough here, because I've done 2 playthroughs of this game so far. Okay, so I killed her, and then I moved onwards. I know some of you are already upset, but I had my reasons, and I don't regret it. She made me suspicious, and she was blocking my exits, so yeah, that was the way it goes. And then we get introduced to Sans, who writes in Comic Sans, and he's a comic. The puns. I could do without puns. I don't like puns. I've never been a fan of puns. They make me go, ugh. They hurt physically, you know. They literally make my muscles tighten, as they are said. And Comic Sans, or Sans as he's called, little skelly man, is constantly making little jokes and wisecracks with little cutscenes of a badumch, that kind of thing. And his brother Papyrus. His brother Papyrus, who is a doofus with good intentions. He's kind of like this cliche sort of like dumb farm boy type character. He wants to be a member of the Royal Guard. He wants to be liked. He wants to be popular. But unfortunately, he has the brain of dead fish, and he keeps messing things up. He keeps trying to get you to eat spaghetti that's frozen. And this is where I was introduced to all these weird quirks of the game. Yes, there's lots of little puzzles and stuff, which are very simple. The game wants you to proceed. It'll tell you the answer. If you look around, it'll just tell you what the answer to the puzzle is. And I think, although I never had to do it, I think you can call people on your cell phone that you have, and they will just like tell you the answer. It never wants you to get stuck, at least until later on when it's the puzzles do need solving, but they'll sort of help you, guide you along the way. So if you don't like puzzles, you'll be fine. Either way, these two are trying to capture you because the king, Dreamer, R-Score Dreamer, wants your soul. And the leader of the Royal Guard, Undine, is hunting you down. And not to kill you, to capture you so that they can kill you and take your soul. Because they need 7 souls to escape the barrier. They have 6 already. They want 1 more. So you're being hunted. Now, I basically chose who would live or die on their first interaction. I'm going to just get this out of the way. I killed most of the trash enemies in the game. Because it's presented in the style of like a classic, you know, JRPG, where they attack you and you get a battle scene and all this kind of stuff. And the combat is done in a really fun little way of just little mini games. I will say I think I regret using a keyboard now, certainly as the sort of challenges of avoidance. You have a little heart piece that basically does a mini bullet hell. Very brief, but it is a little awkward on the keyboard, and maybe with a controller. Later on, it got a little awkward. I think it's fine. I've beat everything with it. It's not the end of the world, but it's one of those things maybe I would have gone with controller if I'd started the game again. But I killed most things, except the dogs, and any character that had a lot of dialogue that I thought was kind of fun. So, there's an entire section with puppies and dogs. I hate this little white dog. There's a little white dog in this game that is the most horrendous creature, because it's called the annoying dog, and it's really annoying. And it's super annoying. It poos and leaves crap in your inventory, which also turns into an infinite money glitch, because if you use the poo, you just fill it with more poo. And you can sell this poo later on and just keep regenerating it. But either way, this dog is designed to be annoying, and it is very annoying. There's several puzzles throughout the game, and for those of you who've played it will recall the legendary artifact. There's a legendary artifact that you find in a room that's sealed behind a musical puzzle that's very like Resident Evil style. You have to do a series of little events to find out what the piano chords are that you have to play. Then you play the piano, it opens a secret room, and inside the secret room is a legendary artifact. And when you go to pick it up, it says, you are carrying too many dogs. And I was very confused. And then I checked my inventory. Sure enough, in my inventory, out of nowhere, is the annoying little dog. And the joke of it is, you put the dog down, because you could drop things from your inventory, and the dog immediately runs and steals the artifact and runs away. And I will say this, on my second playthrough, I tried... There's no way of avoiding this. This whole sequence of events is just for that joke, and that's kind of charming. It's actually very charming. It's really charming that you do get to solve and have all these puzzles, and then you get this sort of, like, non-relevant payoff. But it works. Like, in the context of this game, you're just like, oh my god. Oh my god. Like, it's a very, very quirky, charming game. When it comes to... the real spirit of the game, though, comes from the combat. In that, if you don't want to kill anything, you don't actually have to kill anything. So, I'll spoil now, the second playthrough I've done is the pacifism run. You don't have to kill anything. You can talk to them. And the dialogue they give you in combat is... leading you in a certain direction. So if you find a massive dog in a huge piece of armor, which is the annoying dog, you can play with it and beckon it, because it's still a puppy, and you can play around with it, and you can do all those kind of things. And eventually you can get it to lie on your lap and snuggle it, and it'll go to sleep. And then you don't have to kill it. You can just spare it and let it go. And then you'll bump into that character later on. Because one thing I really didn't know about until the very end of the game, of my first playthrough, when I reached level 11, which is apparently a bad thing. And for those who know, you know, is that the enemies are not spawning enemies like you would expect in like an FF6-7 kind of vibe, where you wander around an area and it's a certain amount of tiles and then an enemy will spawn. They are limited. These are the monsters that live down there, and once you kill them, they'll never appear again. And I was actually bothered midway through the game at my low encounter rate because I needed some gold. I was like, there's just no enemies spawning. I was wandering around, and people were Pepe laughing at me constantly, and the reason was I had killed everything. So, of course, they're not respawning. They're not respawning because they're dead. The monster you run into is the same monster. And this actually pays off in a big way, is they are families. They have connections. They're aware of each other. They know each other. And you start to get to know the monsters by name and description. And it makes you feel bad. Because you might have killed orphans, which I did do. Yeah, kind of horrible. Well, proceeding through the game, a lot of very interesting things happen in terms of twisting this combat dynamic into different ways, which shows so much creativity. I will give particular shout-outs here to the dates with Papyrus. If you are friendly and help Papyrus out, and his brother wants you to, because he knows his brother really wants to be successful, but he's not good at it, and you play along, then you'll end up on a date with him, which turns into a combat scenario. Like, it's the same combat screen, but it's done in a very different way in order to proceed with the date and ultimately prove to yourself that, I'll prove to him that you're too infatuated with them and he's not feeling the same way. And so it becomes a friendship and you gain that person as a friend on the phone who you can call at later dates. This was great. There's little towns and things moving through 3 main areas, Snowdin, Waterfall, and the Hotlands. And as you move through that, the characters get more and more bizarre in a very similar Binding of Isaac way. So I moved through Snowdin into Waterfall, where there's some nice puzzles and some secrets, which I also thought was cool, such as Temu Village or Temi Village, and then a hint from a hint from one of the characters pointed to how you find Temi Village, which I ultimately found and was useless for me in my first playthrough because they want things like to go to college, which I couldn't afford. Like, for 1,000 gold, they'll send you to college and things like that, which I was like, I don't know what the hell the point of this is. Just turns out you can sell poo to them for infinite money, but I didn't know that at the time. And then moving on eventually to the Hotlands, where the characters take an interesting turn. Now, I think it's worth mentioning here, I didn't know it at the time, because the story does play out in the correct way. All the deep, interesting storylines that follow on come from repeat playthroughs of doing it in very specific ways. And so my sort of mixed bag playthrough, where I left some things alive and killed some things, led me to a satisfying conclusion, but an obvious hint that things had gone wrong. And that hint actually comes through as you work your way through the laboratory with Dr. Alphys, who's an eccentric... She's like an eccentric scientist, of the royal scientist, who has built this crazy robot that's a game show host that you have to take part in various game shows and TV shows with and have an ultimate showdown with. But there's a twist to it. There's a lot of clues going on throughout the playthrough that you're missing some elements of what the hell's going on. Not just areas. There are areas that are locked off that you just can't get to. And you can maybe at the end of the game buy a mysterious key, but you can't afford it by then because you're not prepared for it. Or you'll bump into rooms in a hotel that say, hey, do you have this item? And you can get that item at like the beginning of the game, but you've probably used it for healing or something. It's like, okay, so on the next playthrough, I want to keep that item in storage. You have a storage box and to use later on. So there's all these things building up, which was very frustrating, but also led you to want to play the game again. It was frustrating because it's like, how do I do this? Oh, I probably needed to do something different earlier on, and I couldn't. As I worked towards the end, though, and got to the castle, the real horror of the game sets in on me, which is Sans meets you in the castle, and Sans tells you, like, you're a bad person. I was like, what? Like, really puts you down. Because he then tells you that EXP that you've been getting from killing things, because you do level up, is actually execution points. You're a murderer. You're a bad person. A really bad person. Because it turns out the level cap in the game is 12. I was level 11. Accidentally. So I killed most of the things in the game. And now my judgment has come. Because I'm an awful, awful human being. And it really tried to put me down. I will say this, alright? I didn't feel that bad. Like, they attacked me. They were hunting me, right? Undyne and co were all hunting me down to capture me. That goat lady was trying to keep me in her house forever. I don't feel bad about the way that went down, all right? That's all I'm saying. I didn't feel bad. And ultimately led us to the fight with the king, who wants to capture my soul. But there's a melancholy here of the king clearly doesn't really want to do this. And he actually kind of freely admits, is like, I don't really want to do this, but I had to inspire my people some way. So we told them that we would collect these souls. and break free and free the monsters from the underground, who have a very nice life down there, but they are trapped. It's a nice prison is still a prison. And so I ended up killing the king, which then led to the real enemy of the game. And this is where it went on really off the rails for me, but in a wonderful way. Is the real darkness is the flower from the very beginning of the game. The flower returns and takes over and then crashes your game. Literally crashes out in that Kojima style way of doing things. And when you reopen the game, he's captured your save file and won't let it go. So you can't like reload and do it again in a different way or anything like that. It's like, I've taken over the save file is not found. I've corrupted it and taken it over. And then you go into this monolithic fight, which is animated in a totally different way, almost reminiscent of the very Japanese Bulletstorm games that are using super bizarre graphics. I can't remember the name offhand. I've seen some very extreme ones. And almost unavoidable damage is going to pour onto you. But the souls of the previous 6 humans who have died, come to help you and provide healing and things. But if you die, the game crashes again. And when you reopen it, you had a checkpoint, and it'll keep going because you keep fighting back, like you won't die. It's a very cool, almost like Doctor Strange element of this, and it's very bizarre and unusual what the hell is happening, but by this point, you're totally invested in the game, so it doesn't matter. Where you ultimately do kill Flowey. However, this is the quote-unquote bad ending, I guess? I don't know. Is that you get an epilogue to the game here, where it tells you, like, you killed the king, and you got out of the barrier. However, because of your, like, horrific murderous tendencies, it actually turns out that Undyne becomes the leader, and Undyne has pledged to build a massive monster army and murder any humans that keep wander in there to get their souls to break the barrier. And Undyne is going to unleash an army upon the world, mainly focused at you, specifically, in order to butcher you and bring you down. Which is horrifying, because it's like, yeah, you left a really bad impression in the monster's eyes. And as it came to an end, I was like, we have to play again. But I'll say this. I'll do a different video on the pacifist run. Because those who know. Phenomenal just quirkiness and happiness and intrigue going through it. A game that's got more red herrings and roads not taken than you can imagine. Like, I think back to Final Fantasy VI, where you are left with a few things as the world changes in that game and you can't go back. But you're like, I need to play again to do that 1 or 2 things. This game had like 12 of those things, and a lot of them aren't actually things. Mouse with cheese is a particular one that's just a gag. It's just designed to kind of like mislead you into thinking something's going to happen, or can I go back and get the legendary artifact? Those kind of things. There's doors that are sealed that just say this is a door, and you're like, well, doors open, right? And then you get clues later, is like a ghost could maybe travel through this, and you meet ghosts, right? But there's a big sadness and darkness. I love the way the game played with horror and comedy at the same time. There are some scenes that are genuinely quite unsettling and ominous as you move through them. And then there are scenes that are just really goofy and silly all mixed together, creating a good pacing, a really good pacing, where you're constantly intrigued by what's going on despite the absurdity of the situation. And I can't recommend this game enough based on that. So if that was enough for you to get the quote-unquote not full lore dump, because that comes from different playthroughs, but a general idea of what this game is, I've obviously done this very briefly, and I think the first playthrough took me 7 hours, something like that, then go and check this out. And I can't believe I haven't played it. This game's been out for years, and having not played it, I do feel like a goof. So there we go. But our next video, we'll look at the pacifist run. So check for that. If you know, you know. Bye.